We've all been there, a moment in life where it feels like everything is crumbling. Those instants where what you thought was certain starts to shake, and you're left standing in the chaos, unsure of what to do. But what if I told you that in that low point you can actually find your greatest strength? The key is in something that seems simple: the power of sitting in silence. When the outside world turns chaotic, when physical pain pierces us, or emotional anguish drowns us, the idea of meditating can seem not just impossible, but even cruel. How can we talk about peace when we're at war with reality? How can we find stillness when everything in us is screaming? Ancient wisdom teaches us that it's precisely in these moments that we most need to return to the simplicity of being present. It's not about escaping the chaos, but finding that small space of calm that exists even in the fiercest storm. Like a flower growing through cracks in asphalt, our capacity to be present can bloom even in the most adverse circumstances. Imagine for a moment that you're a centuries-old tree that has weathered countless storms. Its branches may bend, some may break, but its roots stay firm in the earth. Those roots are your ability to be here, now, breathing. No matter what winds blow around you, you can always return to those deep roots connecting you to something greater than this moment of suffering. When you're overwhelmed by pain, physical or emotional, it's natural for your mind to want to escape. It wants to plan, solve, anticipate, remember anything, but stay here with what hurts. But the practice invites us to do something radically different. Stay. Not with bitter resignation, but with tender, compassionate presence toward ourselves. This presence doesn't mean you have to passively accept everything that happens or feel okay with your suffering. It simply means acknowledging that, right now, this is what's happening, and you can be present with it without getting lost in the maze of thoughts that amplify the pain. Sitting in meditation, when life falls apart, is like lighting a small candle in a dark room. It doesn't banish the darkness entirely, but it creates a small circle of light and warmth. That light doesn't come from outside. It rises from your own innate ability to be present, to breathe consciously, to witness your experience without being swept away by it. Your breath becomes your anchor. Not a forced or manipulated breath, but the natural breath that's been with you since your first moment of life and will be with you until your last. Each inhale is a small arrival in the present moment. Each exhale, a gentle release of what you can't control. When pain intensifies during practice, and it will, because sitting in silence puts us in direct contact with what's present, remember that you're not trying to make it disappear. You're learning to be with it differently. Like a compassionate friend sitting beside someone who's suffering, not trying to fix anything, just being there. Your mind will tell you this isn't working, that you need to do something more active, more dramatic. But there's deep wisdom in this apparent passivity. By stopping the fight against the present experience, you paradoxically find a strength you didn't know you had. Not the strength of a warrior who battles, but the strength of a mountain that remains serene as clouds pass over its peak. In these moments of practice amid chaos, something extraordinary begins to reveal itself. You discover a part of you that remains untouched by external circumstances. It's not that you don't feel pain or anguish, but you find a space within you that's larger than any particular experience. It's like realizing you're the sky, not just the clouds passing through it. This understanding doesn't come all at once, nor does it stay forever. It emerges gradually, like a dawn slowly dissolving the night's darkness. Every moment you spend sitting, present with your breath, is a small dawn in your consciousness. So sitting in meditation, when everything crumbles, isn't an act of escape, but the bravest thing you can do. It's saying yes to life as it is, not as you wish it were. It's finding refuge, not in ever-changing external circumstances, but in your own capacity to be present, which is the only thing you truly possess and no one can take away. There's a beautiful paradox at the heart of this practice. When we stop resisting what's present, when we allow difficult emotions to exist without fighting them, something in us relaxes. It's not that the pain magically disappears, but our relationship with it changes. It's like stopping the struggle against a strong current and discovering you can float. Imagine your suffering as a clenched fist. The more you try to force it open from the outside, the tighter it grips. But when you stay present, with patience and tenderness, the fist begins to relax on its own. The practice of sitting is that patient presence that allows tension to naturally release. Some days, sitting to meditate will feel like trying to hold water in your hands. Your mind will be restless, your body uneasy, your emotions swirling like leaves in a gale. In those moments, the temptation will be to give up, to think you're not cut out for this, that others can find peace but you can't. That's the voice of suffering talking, trying to keep you in familiar, painful territory. The practice teaches us we don't need to be perfect meditators to benefit from meditation. You don't need a silent mind or a state of spiritual bliss. All you need is the willingness to sit with what's present, with no agenda other than being there. Like a gardener planting seeds without obsessing over their growth speed, you cultivate patience with your own healing process. When physical pain intensifies during practice, it can become a relentless but compassionate teacher. It shows you the difference between primary pain, which is inevitable, and secondary suffering, which we create with resistant thoughts. Pain can be like a wave hitting the shore. We can fight it and be dragged under, or we can learn to move with its natural rhythm. Notice how even the most intense pain has variations, moments where it softens, spaces between the waves. These spaces are always there, but our resistance keeps us from seeing them. By training your attention to notice these subtleties, you develop a new way of relating to difficult experiences. Emotional anguish brings its own challenges. Emotions can feel so intense, they seem to fill your entire consciousness. Here, the practice reveals something surprising. Even the most overwhelming emotion is like a cloud passing through the sky. It seems solid and permanent, but if you observe it with loving attention, you'll see it's constantly moving, shifting in shape, intensity, and texture. It's not about analyzing emotions or finding logical explanations. It's about letting them be what they are while maintaining a steady presence. Like a mother comforting a crying child, you don't need to fully understand the tears to offer unconditional love. There's deep wisdom in the simple act of sitting upright when every fiber of your being wants to collapse. That physical posture communicates something essential to your entire system. Despite the circumstances, you choose to maintain your dignity, your connection to something greater than momentary suffering. It's not a rigid or forced posture, but one that conveys both strength and openness. In the toughest moments of practice, when every part of you wants to flee, remember, You're cultivating a skill that transcends formal meditation. You're learning to be present with difficulty, and this ability becomes an invaluable resource in every area of your life. Every moment of mindful presence is a seed of peace planted in the garden of your consciousness. The loneliness that often accompanies suffering can feel especially intense during practice. When we sit in silence with our pain, it can seem like we're the only ones in the world experiencing such anguish. But there's something deeply comforting in recognizing that, at this very moment, countless beings across the planet are also facing their own inner storms. Your pain, as personal as it feels, connects you to the universal human experience. This understanding doesn't diminish your suffering, but places it in a broader context of shared compassion. When you breathe consciously with your pain, you're also breathing for all those who've walked this path before you and those who will after. Your practice becomes an act of silent solidarity with all of humanity that suffers. There are moments in practice when you may experience glimpses of something inexplicable, a sense of being held by something larger than yourself, a perception that your individual pain is part of a broader tapestry of experience with its own meaning and beauty. These moments can't be forced or repeated at will, but when they come, they leave a lasting imprint of understanding. The fear of death, that shadow accompanying so many forms of suffering, finds a unique space for transformation in practice. When we regularly sit with what's temporary and impermanent in us, we start to familiarize ourselves with the small endings constantly happening. The end of each breath, each thought, each present moment. This gradual familiarity with impermanence doesn't make us indifferent to loss, but teaches us that the beauty and pain of existence are intimately intertwined. Like watching a sunset, knowing its beauty lies in its fleeting nature, we learn to embrace life more fiercely when we understand its ephemeral quality. The body, when sick or in pain, can feel like a traitor that's broken the silent contract we had with it. The practice invites us to forge a different relationship with this temporary vessel we inhabit. Instead of seeing it as something that should meet our expectations, we can approach it with the same compassionate curiosity we'd bring to a changing landscape. Your suffering body is also your breathing, feeling, living body in this moment. Every sensation, however uncomfortable, is proof of your present vitality. The practice teaches us to be present with the body as it is now, not as it was or as we hope it will be. This presence can reveal an unexpected tenderness toward this companion on life's journey. When difficult emotions arise during meditation, they can manifest with surprising intensity. Sadness can feel oceanic, anger like a consuming fire, fear like a bottomless abyss. The practice teaches us we're vast enough to hold these experiences without being defined by them. Like the sky embracing both storms and sunny days, our consciousness can hold any emotional state without fully identifying with it. This capacity to hold doesn't develop overnight. It's like strengthening a muscle. It requires consistent practice and patience with the process. There will be days when you feel overwhelmed, days when practice seems impossible. In those moments, even sitting for 5 minutes is an act of tremendous courage and self-compassion. The practice also reveals that our thoughts about suffering are often more painful than the suffering itself. The mind naturally weaves dramatic stories around our difficult experiences, projecting present pain indefinitely into the future, comparing our suffering to others. These mental elaborations are like echoes amplifying the original sound into a deafening roar. When we learn to distinguish between the direct experience of the present moment and the stories we weave around it, we find a surprising space of freedom. Pain may be present, but it doesn't have to colonize our entire inner world. We can learn to relate to our thoughts as visitors who come and go, without needing to make them permanent residents of our consciousness. In the stillness of practice, memories and emotions we've carefully kept buried often emerge. It's as if the silence creates a safe space where the wounded parts of ourselves feel free to show up. These encounters with unprocessed pain can be intense, but they also offer precious opportunities for healing. The practice teaches us to welcome these inner visitors with the same hospitality we'd offer a dear friend showing up unexpectedly at our door. We don't need to judge why they've come or how long they'll stay. We simply offer them a place to rest in the spaciousness of our mindful awareness. Sometimes, that's all they need to begin their natural process of transformation. There's a subtle but profound difference between suppressing a difficult emotion and allowing it to dissolve naturally. Suppression is like pushing a beach ball underwater. It takes constant energy, and sooner or later, it pops up with greater force. Natural dissolution is like watching a sugar cube dissolve in warm water. We don't force the process. We simply create the right conditions and let nature take its course. Conscious breathing creates these conditions. Each inhale brings fresh oxygen to our system. Each exhale releases what we no longer need. It's not just a physical exchange, but an energetic and emotional one. When we breathe consciously with our pain, we give it the space and flow it needs to move and transform. During times of crisis, the practice can reveal inner resources we didn't know we had. It's like discovering secret rooms in a house you've lived in your whole life. Those rooms were always there, but you needed the right circumstances to find their hidden doors. Suffering, paradoxically, can be the key that unlocks these doors to deeper parts of ourselves. One of these secret rooms is self-compassion. We're often our own harshest critics, especially in tough times. The practice invites us to cultivate the same tenderness toward ourselves that we'd naturally feel for a scared or hurt child. This self-compassion isn't self-pity or weakness. It's the strength that lets us keep going when external circumstances seem impossible. Another hidden room is the intuitive wisdom that emerges when we stop relying solely on analytical thinking to navigate life. In the silence of practice, understandings often arise that couldn't come through logical reasoning. It's as if we tap into an older, deeper form of knowing that resides in the quietest layers of our being. This intuitive wisdom doesn't always come as dramatic revelations. More often, it's a subtle sense of knowing what we need in each moment, a quiet clarity about how to respond to difficult situations, or a wordless understanding that somehow everything is okay as it is, even amid apparent chaos. Grief, that inevitable companion of any significant loss, finds a special container in practice. When we sit with grief, without trying to rush its natural process or make it more manageable, we discover it has its own rhythm and wisdom. Like the seasons, grief has its periods of apparent death and moments of unexpected renewal. The practice lets us be present with grief without being consumed by it. We can learn to be compassionate witnesses to our own process of loss, Offering our aching heart the same patient care a gardener gives a storm-battered plant. We can't speed up recovery, but we can create the conditions for natural healing. Sitting with grief can also open unexpected spaces of gratitude. Not gratitude for the loss itself, but for having had something so valuable that its absence creates such a void. This gratitude doesn't negate the pain, but places it in the broader context of the love that made both joy and sorrow possible. It's like recognizing that tears are proof of love, not weakness. In these moments of deep practice, we sometimes experience what could be called an expansion of identity. We begin to sense that we're more than our pain, more than our circumstances, more than the personal story we've been telling ourselves. This expansion doesn't deny our humanity. It places it in a broader context of interconnection and belonging. Over time, the regular practice of sitting with what's difficult cultivates a quality we might call indestructible presence. Not indestructible because it's invulnerable to pain, but because it's learned to stay present even amid apparent destruction. It's like a flame that bends with the wind, but never fully goes out. This indestructible presence becomes our true refuge. It's not a place we go, but something we are. It doesn't depend on favorable external circumstances or the absence of problems. It's the cultivated ability to be here, fully here, no matter what here holds at any given moment. When we've cultivated this presence through consistent practice, we discover we carry our own sanctuary wherever we go. In the hospital, in moments of loss, amid nighttime anxiety, in periods of uncertainty about the future, we have access to this inner space of calm that doesn't depend on things getting better to exist. The transformation that happens through this practice is rarely dramatic or sudden. It's more like how a plant grows. Day after day, nothing seems to change visibly, but one day you realize something fundamental has shifted. Where there was only automatic reactivity to pain, now there's a pause, a space of choice about how to respond. This pause is precious because it holds our freedom. We're no longer entirely helpless victims of our circumstances. We still feel pain when there's pain. We still experience loss when there's loss. But we no longer drown in these experiences. We've learned to swim in the turbulent waters of human existence. The practice also teaches us that healing doesn't always mean the pain disappears completely. Sometimes it means developing an entirely different relationship with it. It's like learning to walk with a limp. The limitation may remain, but it no longer defines our entire experience of movement. We find grace and dignity even within our limitations. There's a particular beauty in recognizing that our wounds, when held consciously, can become sources of compassion for ourselves and others. The cracks in our heart let in more light, not less. Our experiences of suffering, when metabolized through practice, can become wisdom that benefits others walking similar paths. This doesn't romanticize suffering or suggest we should be grateful for it. It simply acknowledges that nothing in human life is entirely wasted when met with conscious presence. Even our darkest moments can contribute to the wholeness of our understanding and compassion. The practice of sitting in the ruins of what was our life teaches us something essential about the nature of rebuilding. It's not about restoring exactly what was before, but allowing something new to emerge from the rubble. Like a forest reborn after a fire, what grows may be different but no less beautiful than what came before. This renewal happens naturally when we stop clinging desperately to how things were and let life flow through us in new ways. The practice gives us the courage to let go and the patience to wait for what wants to emerge, trusting that life has its own regenerative intelligence. Thank you for letting these words walk with you on your path of practice and healing. If this reflection has sparked a light in your heart, don't miss out. Subscribe to Pure Zen Life to keep exploring the transformative wisdom that comes from meeting life as it is, with open hearts and compassionate presence. Share your story or thoughts in the comments. Your voice could be the encouragement someone else needs to find peace amid the storm. Let's grow this community together, cultivating calm with every breath. Namaste.